Kent Valley's radio station. Valley Park Radio.
Visit Valley Park Radio online. www.valleyparkradio.org.uk. Valley Park Radio.
And a very good afternoon to everybody here at the Darrant Valley Hospital. It's 2 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon and time for another episode of Hope and Prescription with me, Dave Lockyer, and on the other side of the desk we have Gemma. Morning, Gemma. Or afternoon.
Afternoon. Yes, afternoon. And I'm very excited to be here. We've got lots of fun stuff coming up today, and it's going to be based all around World Laughter Day, which is actually on Sunday, the 4th of May.
Is it?
May the 4th be with you, if you are a Star Wars
That's right. If you're a Star Wars fan, absolutely.
So World Laughter Day is an annual event that is celebrated worldwide to raise awareness of how laughter has many, many benefits to our health. It's celebrated by thousands of people in community groups, and comedians come together and they practice comedy, share jokes and just have a real feel-good time. It was actually founded by Dr. Madin Kataria in 1998, and I'd not actually heard of World Laughter Day.
I haven't.
No, and I was looking around and I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I went on a mission to find out a little bit more about it. Now, naturally, I know that laughing myself is a great tool. It feels amazing. It's wonderful. It socially connects us. But there are some real health benefits for us, and we will explore these later in the show. It definitely boosts your mood, and it is lengthening to your life, apparently, which is quite interesting to know. So you can do things like watching your favourite comedian or reading funny books, gathering with friends, as I say, and telling jokes to really get that diaphragm working. And guys, today I'm really excited to tell you we have a guest speaker, and it is Jason Simmons. Jason is a full-time comedy hypnotist, mentalist, mind reader, stand-up comedian and part-time belly dancer, entertaining audiences in holiday parks, theatres, pubs, clubs, sporting societies and restaurants all across the UK and overseas. Jason, welcome to the show.
Yeah, so thanks so much for having us on. I'm really happy to be here on this beautiful Thursday afternoon.
Amazing. So let's kickstart today's show with our first song, and it is Alan Sherman. He sings Nutty Things, this time with strings.
There you go. That's Alan Sherman there, and hello, mother, hello, fodder.
Yes.
A letter from a camp. Oh, the old ones, all of those are the greatest, aren't they? They're really good.
Absolutely, yes. And there's something quite, I don't know, it always gets me joyful listening to old school music. Sometimes I'm convinced that I was born in the wrong era, but who knows? And I have got to say, as I was just saying when this song was on, it has been tricky to find some funny songs that are allowed for the radio. So yes, but it's been great fun. So I would love to hear more about Jason, and I'm sure our wonderful listeners would love to know a little bit more about who you are and what your work is all about.
Yeah, so I'm Jason Simmons. I'm a hypnotist, mind reader, magician and stand-up comedian based in Erith in Kent. And I started performing back in 2011. Started off on a sort of open mic scene and mainly did a musical act back then. And in about 2015, I started to merge hypnosis and comedy together, and sort of moved into doing parks and places like that. So I do a lot of holiday parks now, things like Haven, Pontins, Parkdeans, and even overseas as well.
Oh, that's amazing. And why did you decide to get into this? What was it a passion from a childhood, or?
Yeah, so I'd always been interested in being an entertainer, and as a child I wanted to be a redcoat, but my mum said, "Oh, you need to have some, a proper job."
Yes, as parents do.
Yeah, so I did a proper job for a while, and I just so happened to be doing a job that I really didn't enjoy, and I was left to my own devices most of the day. And in a bid to sort of look busy, I started writing jokes, as part of the day job, just so it looked like I was actually doing something. And then, and then the opportunity came up for I saw an advert in a local comedy club saying open mic night. Do you think you've got what it takes? And it went from there really.
And did it go the first gig, Jason? You must have been a bit scared.
Yeah, I think it went better than it must have gone well because I'm still doing it now. I always wonder what would have happened if it had gone terribly bad.
Yeah.
But when I look back, the video is still there,
Yeah.
on YouTube somewhere. But I won't point you in that direction. But it is very cringeworthy to watch now.
You speak to any comedian, they'll tell you they've had bad nights where they just haven't connected with the audience.
Yeah.
Just think carry on regardless.
Well, that's it. Yeah, you've just got to just plough through it sometimes, and if you know that the material works in most settings and venues, then invariably you think, oh, this is just one of those times. But it takes a long time to get the the experience to be able to sort of push through those tough ones.
Yes. I'll talk a little bit later into the episode about my experience, which is quite interestingly cringy. So I'm glad that one's not online, but I might have to do some digging, Jason, see where it is.
I'll send you the link somewhere.
Brilliant. So it's quite interesting how jokes are formatted. I've read books where it sort of gives you ideas of how you could format them. Do you follow any certain structure, or do you just sort of think of them? How does it work for you?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to sort of try and write daily. That does help because there is a lot of, you have to sort of separate the wheat from the chaff with everything, and it is a process really. And sometimes you'll have something that comes to you that you think is funny, and then you go on stage and you try it and it doesn't work. But it might not be that the joke's not good enough. It could be that that you've just not got the confidence or experience. So I always say never throw anything away. Yeah. Because there's stuff I've gone back to which I wrote sort of 4 or 5 years ago, and then now I've got a different outset or take on that. And I just sort of I can deliver it in a different way now, and it does work.
And I think delivery is definitely quite an important. I think it's quite an important way to get your jokes across, because if you're stood there quite serious and you're but also sometimes quite serious jokes can sit. So I guess it's like reading your crowd, isn't it, and going with it to see. Yeah,
and it's finding your sort of your voice or your persona really. So there is a sort of famous story about Jack Dee, that Jack Dee used to perform with a puppet.
Yes.
He used to do a ventriloquism act and used to go terribly. But one day he turned up at a venue and he was, had a particularly bad day and he was just very miserable. And his act just really, really stormed. He thought, I'm onto something here. So if you watch back on some of his earlier DVDs, you'll see that he, makes reference to that. Mitzi, I think, was the name of the puppet. Right. So at the end of his show, he goes, "Oh, can me and Mitzi go on now?" And it's like, "Not tonight."
Yeah. Oh, nice, wonderful. So, Dave, I would just like us to have a bit of another song, if that's all right.
Yeah, well, I'll ask Jason, because I know you came up with some suggestions. So pick one of these, and Jason, you can have the Space Cowboy by Jamiroquai. You can have Always and Forever by I can't remember their name.
Heatwave.
That's the one. And you can have Lovely Day by Bill Withers. So what do you reckon? Which fancy?
I think, seeing as it's a lovely day, I think it'd be good to have a bit of Bill Withers.
Oh, I reckon so. Here we go then. Jason, you told me you've had a little practice on that note, haven't you?
Yeah, it's a little game that we play in the car with the kids. We try and see who can sustain that note the longest.
I'm not going to ask you to do it now, and I wouldn't be so cruel. I wouldn't be so she would.
Yeah, my kids usually look at me with a look of disdain when this song comes on.
Great song.
Oh no, it's coming! Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Well, welcome back to our wonderful listeners. And if you are just joining us today, we have an incredible guest speaker with us, Jason Simmons. So, Jason, we were talking about your career, and I'm really, really interested for you to tell me a little bit more about this fusion between comedy and hypnotism.
Yeah, so I originally got into hypnosis through I loved Paul McKenna as a child, and I sort of came across an adult education course a few years back by a friend who's now a very good mentor of mine, a guy called Tim Gratwick, and I originally came into it from a sort of therapeutic background, to learning hypnotic techniques to help people to resolve issues or to change unresourceful states of mind really. And then about sort of 2015, I saw this sort of gap in the market of there being not many hypnosis shows, and I just thought I'd like to deliver a show in a way that sort of melds the two, really gets rid of the old stigma that's around hypnosis. A lot of people are quite worried that you're going to make them do silly things, and and just do a show that was going to be something that people would go away feeling really good with. Like I always want people leaving my show thinking, I wish I'd volunteered tonight.
Yes.
Because they're going to be my audience, for the next time that I come back to that place.
Are there those that just are not susceptible to hypnotism at all? Doesn't matter what you do. I know it's a cliche, the old pocket watch. But are some people just unhypnotizable, if that be a word?
So some people are less. I mean, everybody's got the ability to do it because hypnosis really is a natural state of mind. So
Right.
I always, one of the scenarios I give at the beginning of my show is that if you ever found yourself sort of daydreaming, or you've been driving to a destination, you've got all the way to the end of the destination, and you've turned the key off in the ignition, and then you thought to yourself, how did I get here safely?
Oh, yeah.
That's hypnosis, because your unconscious mind just allows you to do the automatic tasks like breathing. You're not telling yourself to breathe right now.
Yeah.
Similarly, you're not telling yourself to pump blood around your body. It just happens. Yeah. So
Would you say then that meditation is kind of like hypnosis?
yeah, so meditation, hypnosis, yoga, they've all, there's a big crossover between all of those, and they sort of meld together. So as I say, hypnosis really is a tool that sort of uses the power of someone's mind to help them to overcome things.
Yeah, amazing. I had this. Here's a bit of information for you. I had this like comfort toy thing that you might call it, and I was really attached to it, even off into my adult years. And my dad was like, "Listen, I'm gonna pay for you to go and see a hypnosis, and we're gonna try and get you to break that attachment," because I started to become quite embarrassed about it, but I couldn't. Every time I put it away, I'd felt like something was really missing.
Yeah.
So I'd went along and I'd done it, and it was really strange because when the man hypnotized me, he asked me 3 questions, and he got me to write it down and to go and put it in corners of the room. And then when he brought me back, he asked me the same 3 questions, and then asked me to go and pick up the pieces of paper just so that I could see that it had actually worked. And what was quite interesting is one of the questions that he'd said to me was, what colour was your dad's first car that you remember when you was a kid? Now, in my conscious mind, I sat and I said red, but I went and picked up the piece of paper and I said blue, and I was like, oh, here we go, this was a but I went downstairs and I said to my dad, I went, Dad, what was the first car you had when I was a kid? And he went, oh, it was a blue so-and-so. And I didn't even realise I knew that. It was amazing. And I just thought, I don't remember him asking me these. I don't remember putting them in the corner. But it was just really quite interesting because I was definitely under. And I must say, it did work for a good week. But then I saw it again and it kind of just sort of flooded it back for me. But it definitely in the moment. And this is why I like the idea of the comedy side of it coming into it. And I see on your website you've got a little video of when they're being hypnotised and they're doing these really fun things. I must come and see a show because it really interests me. And actually on your website you say it says on there that 87% of all hypnotic volunteers report feeling calm, confident and happy in the days that follow. I mean, this is fantastic, but why do you think that is?
So when someone enters a state of hypnosis, or they naturally relax, and it just promotes a sort of gives people a resourceful state of mind, really. So when people are under hypnosis, sometimes people are very stressed out. We've got very busy lives, and just having that sort of moment to switch off. And just be able to relax for because people think, oh, if someone's up there running around on stage looking silly, but most of the time they're having a really good time, and they just have this sort of, it releases a lot of endorphins within the body as well.
Which it again has incredible health benefits, doesn't it?
Yes, most definitely.
Amazing. And one of my curious questions was, it's like, how do you engage with the audiences then? Do you just kind of ask who wants to volunteer, or do you sort of preempt who's going to do it? How does that work?
Yeah, so I just ask for volunteers on the stage. I don't force anybody to come up and be part of the show. If no one does volunteer, then it's a very boring lecture on hypnosis. I don't want anybody to come up under duress. But what I would typically do at the beginning of the show would be what's called a convincer. So we'll do an exercise with the audience, And I'm always looking, the hypnosis is really about sort of building a rapport and a connection with your audience, getting them to trust you, but also trust themselves. And it's really about getting them, used to doing things. So you building in bits, and I'm always looking to see who's going to volunteer. So you can make a sort of a judgment on who's going to come up and who might you think I'm going to place them there because they're going to be good for that routine.
I think Darren Brown does something similar, doesn't he, with the audience as a whole, and he can tell which ones are going to be more susceptible than others.
Yeah, that's right. Because obviously with a show, you're very constrained with time, so you need people that are going to go into it sort of quicker and easier. And there is a general rule of thumb that about 20% of the audience are, or 20% of the population, are more suggestible, or highly suggestible, what we would call like a somnambulist, which is basically like someone that daydreamer basically. So if someone daydreams or sleepwalks, the chances are they're going to be very suggestible.
Yeah.
But there are other things that can play into your favour as well and make things a bit easier for you. I.e., if it's a show that's billed and advertised as a hypnosis show, that really helps. It's difficult if you get turned up as the surprise guest.
Yeah.
And also what people do for a living, what they dress in. These are all sort of keys and signals that I'm looking for, because it's all about language as well. So I'll adjust and calibrate my language to suit what someone. So if I've got a builder that comes up to me, I'm going to use words like cemented or locked, bolted.
Oh, clever.
Things that are in there.
Yes.
They're all little free goes really. So
Oh, right. That's interesting. That's good. And that means that you have to be yourself very present in that moment with that person and learning that person on the spot.
yeah, most definitely. Yeah, you've got to definitely have a good read of people and be able
Yeah.
to sort of adapt and change. And even if things crop up on stage, which they do from time to time, you have to be able to react within that moment. But sometimes those can be the sort of funniest moments, and that's why I really like hypnosis. You never know who or what's going to unfold, like who's going to come up or what's going to unfold when you're on stage.
Yes, brilliant. So, seeing as we are celebrating World Laughter Day, I was wondering if you had any top jokes for me today, Jason.
I will tell you my favourite joke. It is a bit
Yeah.
of a long-winded joke if we've got time.
Okay,
So
let's go. Let's do it.
So there's a guy at work, Dave, and he's boasting that he knows everybody. And his manager bites. He says, "There's no way that you know everyone." He says, "No, I guarantee it. Just name someone." So he says, "Okay, well, let's go Keir Starmer." So Dave says, "I know him. Let's go down to 10 Downing Street. We'll see him." So off they get on the train. Outside 10 Downing Street, Keir comes out and he says, "Oh, Dave, I haven't seen you in ages. Let's have a beer." So the manager's a bit perplexed, but he thinks, "Oh, he just got lucky there." So Dave says, "Look, I guarantee you I know anyone." So he says, "Okay, let President Donald Trump." So off they get on a flight. They go to the White House. Donald Trump comes out of the White House. He says, "Dave, I'm just heading to a meeting, but I haven't seen you in ages. Let's have a beer." Manager is really confused now. So he says, "Look, I still don't believe it." So Dave says to him, "We'll just name one other person. We'll go there." So he says, "The Pope." So Dave says, "All right." So off they fly. They get to Vatican City, and they're in St. Peter's Square. It's very busy, and Dave's looking around, and he says, "Oh, look, I don't think the Pope's going to see me from down here. I know all the security guards, so I'll go and see him. I'll be back in 10 minutes." Anyway, 20 minutes later, Dave pops out on the balcony next to the Pope, and there's a big ruckus going on down in the crowd, I believe. So Dave runs back down, and his manager's lying on the floor. And Dave says, "Oh, what happened?" He says, "Oh, I don't know. He was all right until someone said to him, 'Who's that bloke standing on the balcony next to Dave?'"
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, well, he wasn't wrong, was he?
Yeah, so it's a very long-winded joke, but that is my absolute favourite joke.
Yeah. No, but this is it. It's sometimes like you can have short jokes, you can have long jokes, and that's the fun thing about jokes is you can really play with it. I'm quite often I'm not great at telling jokes, but I quite often like to play with puns when I'm in the kitchen. Like I'll be sat there and I'll be like cooking dinner or whatever, and one of my boys will come in and I'll be chopping vegetables on the chopping board, and I'll be like, I'm really chopping bored of this. And my kids are like, oh, Mum, she's at it again. And I'm like, why don't you cucumber over here? And they're just like, oh, my goodness. But it's just having a bit of fun, isn't it? Well, for you, it's a profession, but for me, I'm just like having a good old giggle. Talking about that, actually, so I have tried a bit of stand-up comedy myself.
Oh, nice.
I studied drama and theatre at University of Kent, and one of the modules that I took was stand-up comedy. And I remember being really excited about it because I was always the one in the group that would make everyone laugh, and I always had a good giggle and enjoyed making people laugh. So I was like, oh, I'm going to have a go at this. And then it suddenly dawned on me one day when I was sat trying to write a script just how hard it was. For that example of like, I was finding things funny, but then I was thinking, well, are other people going to find this funny? Like, it then sort of builds a barrier between, oh God, can I make this sit? But I remember coming back to what you said a minute ago of having to be able to react and respond in the moment to situations that happen when you're on stage. So I put my script together and I came on and I was there and I was telling my jokes. Some of them were landing, some of them weren't. It was a little bit icky. And then it was one of the old microphones that have the lead in it.
Oh, okay.
And the lead fell out. And I remember just like looking at the mic and then looking at the audience, and my brain just went pure panic. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got a comment on this and now I'm going to forget my script. And I started getting all in my head. Luckily, my best friend was in the audience and he shouted something, and I was then immediately able to comment back because I'm used to that kind of atmosphere. So I commented back to him and then I sort of picked myself up. But it was that moment where it all went wrong that it got the best laugh. And it was just so interesting. But I think after that I was a little bit like, okay, it's hard. I found it really tricky. Do you think it's a talent that you have? Do you think you can train for it? Do you feel like, are you born gifted with it, or how do you think that?
No, I think everybody's got something within them to be able to do that. It's just if they've got the sort of inclination to actually go out and do it. And you're right. It's not. I don't know. Some people are naturally funny. Some people are funny, but when they get on stage, absolutely go to pieces.
Yeah.
And most of the comedians that I know are quite introverted. So I think it's definitely a skill that you sort of learn and you develop. Because as I said earlier, if you look back up when I started nearly 15 years ago now, it was my act was completely different. I did a lot of one-liners then, and it just didn't fit my persona or my voice.
Yeah.
As a performer, really.
Yeah, interesting. That's great. Dave?
Yes?
You got any jokes for me?
Oh, I like the little zingers, the real quick liners. So the one I had many years ago. You remember the Flower Pot Men on the telly many years ago?
Bill and Ben?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Well, the Flower Pot Men going into a bar, and Bill goes up to the bar and goes... And Ben said, ignore him, his business on you.
Okay,
I should have done this.
Fantastic. Let's go into our next song, and I've chose Rockin' Robin by Bobby Day. It's not a funny one, but it's a great one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a brilliant song.
Nice, good warm weather song.
Yes, that's it.
There you go, Rockin' Robin here on Valley Park Radio. That was the Bobby Day version. Of course, Michael Jackson covered it much later on when he was a wee lad. Lovely song, though. Lovely song. Yes, you were going to ask me a question, I think.
Yes. I was going to ask you a question, actually, and it was going to be, what things particularly make you laugh?
One of my all-time favourites was the set of cartoons that used to be drawn by Gary Larson, The Far Side. And they're just silly things, and they just, I don't know, must hit the nerve with me. One of my favourites is these two reindeers sort of chewing the cud in the field, and one of the reindeers has got this target on the side of him, and the other reindeer says to him, I don't know, that's a bummer of a birthmark, Harvey.
Oh, yeah.
Silly things like that. It just appeals to my sense of humour. Some might say a sick sense of humour, but silly things they just make me laugh. Things like that.
My best friend has like got the darkest sense of humour, so I get it. It doesn't matter. Like, and this is it. Is we're all uniquely different in what makes us laugh. And Jason, you're so used to making other people laugh, but what makes you laugh?
For me, it's my kids. You know, it's particularly my two sons. So I've got three children, but my middle child is very sort of similar to me, and goes to the Young Magicians Club, and but he's always having roast battles with me, and
Brilliant.
coming up with stuff. What did he say to me the other day? He said that you're so stupid. He said you thought Mountain Dew was the mountain you climb.
Oh, that's just brilliant, and I love that whole and kids are wonderful. I've got 3 boys myself, and I often because my middle child is actually quite into rapping, but I'm a poet, so and that crosses over heavily, doesn't it? So we do something similar. We'll always walk around and we have like these roast battles, and it's just been Easter actually. We didn't do it this year, which I'll have to. It's because he was with his nan and granddad this year, but we normally every Easter we do what you call is eggy in the booth, and then we go in the booth and we'll just roast each other, and it's quite funny, but they come out with some brilliant things, kids, don't they?
That's right, yeah. They always surprise you with something that is quite unexpected.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, there are various things that can make us laugh, and there's places that you can attend. I was just actually speaking to Jason, and he mentioned there's some in Gravesend and Rochester, and there's a few in Dartford that you could just go along and see, have a good laugh, see if you like it. And then there are like open mic nights. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so around the country, usually sort of an act themselves will pick a venue, a local venue, and put a night on. So there's loads of open mic nights, and if people are interested, if they look on Facebook, there's a sort of a group called the Comedy Collective, which tends to post upcoming gigs that are in areas, and then there's certain areas that have got their own Facebook groups. So there'd be one for sort of southeast Kent, but there's loads of gigs between here and Canterbury. There's a few that I can sort of name off air if you need as well. But yeah, loads of places that you can sort of really learn your craft and sharpen your saw.
Yeah, because this is it. Is the more you go to, isn't it, the more that you will start to maybe find your own voice. I think often through viewing other people, you then start to see what lands with you, what particularly makes you laugh, and sometimes your own imagination starts automatically creating things without you even trying to. It's just you get so inspired.
Yeah, that's right. And also you can get people. I had it fairly recently. I was doing I do a magic act for Haven. And I do this big reveal at the end, and I just so happened I was packing my stuff down one night and the curtains hadn't closed, and a member of the audience came up and he said, "Oh, you haven't finished yet?" And I said, "Sorry, I don't fully understand you." And he said, "Do you not realise the prediction that you're wearing is the same prediction as what's on that Rubik's wall that you did earlier on? So I do a Rubik's cube effect with." Where it reveals a character, and the coloured clothing matched the clothing prediction that I had on, and I thought I've never noticed that. So now it's been engineered. It's in the show.
Brilliant.
It just elevated that particular effect, and it sort of ties everything in really nicely. But so it's having that third. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but that was pure chance. Other acts might look at your stuff sometimes and will go, you could do this or you could do that. Yeah. And I learned a lot from, you do a lot of car shares sort of early on in your gig. So you might drive the headliner or the opening act, and you'll be the open spot on a professional bill. And the amount you'd be in the car with them for 4 or 5 hours, and I had one guy just sort of dissect my whole act and said, "Look, if you'd have done this that way," and not that I took everything on board, but some of it I took on board, and it elevated that performance. Then
amazing. And you never have to take everything on board, but sometimes you really get those golden nuggets.
That's
don't
right.
you?
Yeah,
I love that. So I mean, going to comedy clubs can be a good one. Watching your favourite comedians on Netflix, exploring joke books is another one, or even just sitting down with family and friends and seeing what you can come up with. It was quite interesting. I was researching this topic and I discovered a blog, and it said learning to laugh at yourself, and I thought, well, I do that quite often actually, especially when I do silly things like put the milk in the cupboard and the cereal in the fridge. Like, I have no idea why I do that, but I seem to do it quite often, which is quite concerning.
Put the dishes in the washing machine and all
Yeah, silly things like that. But I think it's that whole idea of just, as adults, we are so busy, and I don't think we play as much as we should.
Yeah.
And I think if you can find certain moments to just have a little giggle at yourself, it can be really mood shifting. So you can get yourself out of that stresses of life, and you can shift yourself into a better mood. And actually, there was these two people that I saw online, and they were sat there, and they were showing that how fake laughing can lead into actual laughing. And it was weird because they was like ha 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 ha, but then by the end of it they were like so crying, and it's just because it was silly, but it was brilliant because it was two adults playing, and by the end of it they had tears rolling down their face. So just I guess what I'm trying to say here is to encourage you to play more, to laugh more. I mean, it's something I do miss from TV, but do you remember You've Been Framed?
I do,
Dave?
yeah.
Do you,
That was, people used to send in clips from their home videos, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I love it, and I'm always sort of trying to catch my kids because my kids are wonderfully clumsy, and it does make me giggle quite a lot, and I love it because they laugh at themselves, and this was something quite amazing as well.
The things that the animals get up to
gosh.
kill me, absolutely kill me.
It's not really about now though, is it at all? I don't think I see it at all.
There was I don't know if Harry Hill does something on ITV. I don't know what it's called, but it's similar format. People sending in their videos and what have you. Yeah.
Oh, but again, I'm quite traditional. Bring back You've Been Framed.
Yeah.
So, Jason, do you think, and why do you think, that laughter is an important human experience?
I think it's a very important experience, and I think it can, I think it's very important for the reason that it changes people's moods, and in the sort of industry I'm in hypnosis, that's what we're really trying to do, is change an emotion and create a reaction from that, and laughter is one of the best ways to do that, really.
Absolutely, and there's lots of physical benefits, mental and emotional, and as I mentioned earlier, social benefits as well. I've got a few facts here for you, and seeming as we're playing in the hospital, let's bosh those medical facts out. So we've got a boost in immunity. Interesting, because I didn't think that was a thing, but it does. Reduces your stress hormone, of course, like changing your mood, and enhancing resilience, which is quite an interesting one that I found as well, because people who laugh are more often and are typically better at coping with difficult situations and maintaining this perspective. So I suppose it's like approaching all those situations with a lighter heart, isn't it? Which is just wonderful. And it encourages mindfulness, and it promotes social bonding. Now, something that I love about laughter is it doesn't matter who you are, who's in the room, where you're from. If something's funny, you're all laughing, and it brings you all together, doesn't it?
That's right, yeah, definitely.
It's really quite powerful, and the list of benefits goes on. It actually shared as well that there are it boosts your creativity, and as I've mentioned, problem solving, which is all really quite interesting. And this laughter is something that we just do as a human response. It's like you mentioned earlier, we don't think about breathing, but we don't think, oh, I'm going to laugh at that. You just laugh at it, which is really, really awesome. And I don't think laughter is often given as much credit as it should be. I'm a deep believer that it is one of the best medicines. So definitely go down to these comedy clubs. Definitely follow Jason online and see when one of his shows are coming up, and go along and enjoy yourself. Guys, I found a silly song and I actually really, really like this silly song. It's a parody of Michael Jackson's Beat It, but it is actually Weird Al Eat It.
Yankovic was just discussing that there was a biopic film of him where Daniel Radcliffe, who played Harry Potter, played Weird Al Yankovic. Yeah, it's an odd world, isn't it?
It is, and I mean, it was absolute nonsense, but it was brilliant. When I first heard it, well, me and my son were sat there just proper giggling away, and it really matches my kitchen pun theme. So, so Jason, in your opinion, would you say that laughter was a form of therapy, and what role has laughter played in your life personally?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a form of therapy, and it's played a massive role in my life. You know, it's given me a career, and it's helped me through some really bad times as well, really dark times. So so it's really useful to use.
Absolutely. And how do you find your inspiration for your material then? Is there certain people that you go and watch that you sort of feed from, or how do you get creative in that zone as such?
Oh, so a lot of my material tends to come from sort of family, and a lot of my earlier stuff anyway was about dealing with being a new father, being in a relationship. And then now it's all based around like magic effects. So I have an effect, but I'll try and come up with some sort of material that fits in with that really. But my favourite comedians, one of my absolute favourites is an American act called Brian Regan. Very like clean act, but very funny. And his special is fantastic. I think it's the epitome of hyperbole. And it's all about him being very stupid, in common day situations. And I really liked Tim Vine, because I was that was my main inspiration when I first came into comedy.
Interesting.
The pun slinger, they call him.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm gonna have to look into him because I haven't heard of him. But do you find yourself like going about your daily life and then suddenly you'll see something and you'll be like, oh, I'm gonna use that. Does that sort of spark your inspiration sometimes like that as well?
Yeah, so I do that most of the time. That's how most bits sort of come up. Something funny will happen. Maybe the kids will come out with something funny, or they'll do something that's quite funny, or there'll be bits like in my musical act. There's bits at the minute. My daughter's just become a teenager.
Interesting stage, isn't it?
Yes,
my son's there too.
Yes, I'm just working on an idea at the moment about having to communicate to her, using songs and sort of trying to come up with, I don't know, almost a bit similar to the previous song you had, like parodies of songs.
Yeah.
So I used to do a lot of parodies about love songs written from the perspective of a relationship that was, say, 20 years down the track. How songs would sound differently. So I'd take like Ronan Keating's, Nothing at All, that song, and change the lyrics. And what was the other song I used to do? Was Aerosmith, Don't Want to Miss a Thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so just very small snippets I'd do.
Yeah, but it's so much fun. Do you agree? Do you get fun out of your work as well? Like, 'cause obviously you're doing it to entertain other people, but are you like entertaining yourself in that journey as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's it really sort of the performance brings out a lot of brings a lot of endorphins out in yourself. And if the show goes really well, then you take that high home with you. I mean, similarly, if it doesn't go that well, there's a long drive back sometimes.
But then can't that then become a joke at some point? Maybe. Sometimes
that's right.
those situations you then actually find a joke within how bad that situation went.
Yeah, I think there's a phrase, isn't there, that the comedy is tragedy plus time. Yeah. So I think over time, I think if once it's far enough away. I mean, some of my worst sort of comedy deaths, if you like, I look back on now and they're quite funny.
Yeah.
But at the time they're not a very good experience
No.
at the time. But yeah.
No, but I think that's with like every life situation, really, isn't it? I think as time goes on, you do look back and you have a good giggle about things that you definitely wouldn't have giggled about when it was happening. So there's always something quite interesting there. Dave, who's your favourite comedian?
I think at the moment my favourite is got to be Greg Davis, who does Taskmaster. I saw his latest show a couple of weeks back in Brighton, and when you laugh so much it becomes painful.
Yes.
And that's how his set went. It was absolutely brilliant. It was all sort of observational things that's happened to him, but he put such a twist in it, and it's the way he tells them, the timing. It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I think he's my my number one at the moment. But you were saying about some things funny that come out of kids. My wife's fairly well straight-laced. She has got a wonderful sense of humour, but I think we was watching an old episode of Sherlock, and she came in the room, and the actor who plays Sherlock, what's his name?
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah.
Yes.
My wife comes in and says, "Oh, is that Benedict Cumberbatch?" So whenever I see him now, I just think Benedict Cumberbatch.
You can't get it out of your mind. It's there now, isn't it?
Honestly, it just made me chuckle so much because, oh dear, there we go.
Brilliant. Fantastic. So, as a poet, of course, I did some looking into some comedic poets, and Spike Milligan. You heard of Spike Milligan, guys?
Oh yes.
Yes.
Oh yes.
So, he was actually described as the master of absurdist and surreal humour. He's widely regarded as one of the funniest and most original comedic poets. And this one that I'm going to share with you now was actually voted one of UK's favourite comic poems in several surveys, which is quite interesting. It's absolute nonsense, but again, it is full of play, rhythm, energy, and I found it brilliant. And I actually shared it last night. I do a writing for wellbeing classes and workshops. They're not classes. I don't teach people. We just we get together and we write. But I choose particular themes, and World Laughter Day was the theme for that as well. And I took this one along, and we're all adults sat there reading this poem, and it felt ridiculous, but not one person wasn't laughing, so it was quite interesting. So I'll give it a read now. As silly as it's going to sound, prepare yourself for this one, guys. It's called On the Ning Nang Nong. On the Ning Nang Nong, where the cows go bong, and the monkeys all say boo. There's a nong nang ning, where the trees go ping, and the teapots jibber jabber do. On the nong ning nang, all the mice go clang, and you just can't catch 'em when they do. So it's ning nang nong, cows go bong, nong nang ning, trees go ping, nong ning nang, the mice goes clang. What a noisy place to belong. It's the ning nang nong. Now, try and say that really fast.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be possible.
Actually,
But-
sorry.
Go on.
I was going to say that came from a book that Spike did many years ago called Silly Verse for Kids.
Yes.
And it was all those sorts of weird sort of rhymes, and stuff. Even I think one of them was string is an incredibly wonderful thing. Rope is thicker, but string is quicker.
Yeah, and he does do lots of short little
I
verses
know.
like that, and they're brilliant, and they're really funny, but they're very true. With that's right, isn't it? It is a lot quicker to do. So it's absolutely brilliant. And guys, we've explored different ways that you could engage in laughing, going to different clubs, and engaging in family jokes and things like that. There's something called a joke jar as well, where you could make a jar with the family where you put all your favourite jokes in, and if you're ever feeling a little bit low, you can just go and pick out the joke and go and perform it to one of your family members. But if we have any aspiring comedians listening today who are feeling a little bit fearful about doing it, do you have any advice for them, Jason? What would be the thing to help someone who would like to start this journey? But
I think just get out and do it. Family are probably the worst to perform in front of anyway. So, but yeah, you just got to get out and put yourself out there really, and realise that you're going to be a lot better, say 100 gigs in than you are on your first gig. So just sort of keep ploughing away, and you'll find your own voice. But do feel free to reach out to us if someone is interested in performing, and they want some advice. I'm happy to sort of give them some pointers, and even show them where some gigs are and that, and point them in the direction of promoters that are in the local area.
That's really good. That's really useful. Because it's definitely sort of even if you don't feel ready to start writing or performing, just go to some clubs and start enjoying it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
There's nothing wrong with going down to a club and taking some friends. You could make it a night out with the friends, and go enjoy and have a real good laugh. Have you got any particular events coming up that you'd like to share with our listeners that we could maybe come and
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of public shows coming up. So I am doing the Tunbridge Wells Fringe at the moment. So that's in July. I think I'm the 1st, 2nd, and the 6th. I'm doing a few shows there. I'll be doing the Camden Fringe in August, and then I'm speaking at the UK Hypnosis Convention. I think that's on the 15th of November. So that's I think the sort of special guest speaker for that weekend is Paul McKenna. But
Oh, okay.
I'll
Have
be
you
there
met
as
him
well.
before?
No, it'd be the first time for me. So,
Are you excited?
I am. Yeah, I was really pleased when they selected my presentation to be one of the ones over the course of that weekend. So hopefully I'll get to perform at the gala dinner again this year.
Absolutely, that's amazing, and I wish you all the best with all of that. And you'll definitely have to send me over some dates to these events.
Yeah, sure, but
so I'd love to.
Feel free to check out my website as well, which is just www.jasonsimmons. That's SIMMONS.co.uk, and there's loads of dates on there as well. And feel free to reach out if there's any advice that I can offer.
Yes, amazing. And what I'll do, guys, is I'll put up a little post with a wonderful, cool photo. I love your cool photos as well.
Thanks.
They're also such a vibe. And I will put Jason's address there on the Hope on Prescription page if you missed that link. So, guys, do definitely go and check that out. But Dave,
Yo.
we haven't had your song choice this week, have
No,
we?
we haven't.
Can we play it?
We can indeed. I had two actually lined up, which I was going to play.
Well, we've got 5 minutes.
Yeah,
So
we've got
how long
time
are
for
they?
one. It was actually funny you mentioning Spike Milligan, because one of the ones I had lined up was the Ying Tong song, because it was part of the Goons.
Right.
I'm even too young to remember the Goons, but they're a comedy troupe. And Harry Seacombe was involved, Peter Sellers, Michael Bentine, and if there were no Goons, there wouldn't have been any Monty Python. Which brings me to the other song that I've chosen, and there's some good advice here. We'll see everybody in a couple of weeks' time, will we not?
Yes, we will. It's on the 15th, Thursday the 15th of April.
It certainly is. And thank you to Jason Simmons for being here today.
No, thank you very much for having me.
So
I really
much.
appreciate
It's
it.
been great.
Okay, this has been Hope on Prescription on Valley Park Radio, and we're finishing up with a little bit of Monty Python.